Everyone is just honestly too broke to pay their rent, and it's only going to get worse. Credit default is cresting to an all-time high, followed by car defaults, and then mortgage and rent defaults. Landlords have always struggled at times like these to kick tenants out when they just don't have money to pay. But even worse, now for short-term rental operators, there's no way for them to defend themselves against a long-term tenant that got evicted and is going to choose to squat in their place. Airbnb has created a way for squatters to squat again, super cheap and super easy. I'm going to give you the blueprint on how they do this, and then I'm going to give you 2 ways to quickly evict a short-term rental squatter when they try to hold your place so you don't have to take them to court. And yes, I've done this before. Let's jump in. Welcome back, YouTube world. You heard the news. There was a woman in an Airbnb that stayed for like 570 days without paying. That woman moved into an Airbnb after she was kicked out of another property. And Airbnb doesn't have a way to know someone was just evicted or removed from a property. So she was able to book an Airbnb without any red flags thrown, and a host started to host her for 5 months. She moved out temporarily while they made a fix. He put her up in a hotel in the meantime and then moved her back in off the books, off of Airbnb. And that's his mistake. She then stopped paying her rent. The landlord could not remove her because she built something outside of code. She even tried to hold his ADU ransom for $100,000. She did eventually move out. There's a link down below for a full article on this woman so you can get the whole story. But this begs the bigger question. How many more people are booking Airbnbs after being evicted? Now here's the thing. People are very much broke. They don't have money for storage for their furniture. They don't have money to move somewhere else. In lots of cases, people are abandoning their furniture. They don't have any furniture anymore. If they scrape up a little bit of money, like $1,500, they can book a place on Airbnb for long enough to try to claim tenants' rights. That's cheaper than buying new furniture. It's cheaper than paying a whole month of rent in some spaces, because right now Airbnb hosts are also suffering from a very hard winter season in some cities where they have to drop their rates to less than break even for them to make any money at all so they can pay their mortgages. They're giving away their properties at a loss, making their homes hyper affordable and increasing the risk that a squatter is going to come in. The data available on squatters is a little sensitive. A lot of people who squat are people who can't afford their lifestyle. That is typically lower income brackets. So the people that pay less for properties are the ones that tend to squat, because also as a side effect to making money, you learn financial literacy, how to take advantage of your credit score. You understand the consequences of having an eviction on your record. So people who pay more money for places tend to know the consequences of not paying for stuff, and they want to avoid those long-term consequences. Those people often will negotiate their way out of a lease and let the property go without the landlord having to evict them and taking possession of all their property or throwing that stuff on the curb. But back to the price brackets of a cheap house and a cheap Airbnb. The people who tend to afford a lower priced Airbnb property can be that same subgroup of tenant who could get evicted for non-payment of rent. So as hosts have lowered their prices, there are tenants who get evicted, don't have furniture, save up enough money to rent an Airbnb, and then try to make a profession out of squatting in Airbnbs over and over and over again. And because it's so easy to make a new Airbnb account and not get caught, a person could book somewhere, squat for 6 or 7 weeks, move on and squat in another Airbnb for 6 or 7 weeks, but only pay for say 2 or 3 of them. This can be cheaper and a means to survive when you don't have enough money to get your own place and you already have an eviction on your record. This creates a new risk for Airbnb hosts where normally you want to get booked at all costs. But an example of a responsible change to your business model if you're a host is, for last-minute low-priced bookings, put a maximum length of stay on that booking. If you're going to charge a cheap amount of money anyway, you might as well get a lot of guests instead of just 1 or 2. So if your price drops below what you think to be a safe threshold, put a 7-day maximum for reservations on your calendar using a rule set to protect you when you take cheap guests. But let's say that advice is too late. Let's say you've got a person that will not leave. If you're in this situation, there are 2 things that you can do. One is that you have to have a second Airbnb nearby. 2, they cannot know that you know what they're up to because they're going to try to con you. They're going to act innocent. They'll play dumb, act like their form of payment did not work. They've got to go recharge their card. They're going to buy a little bit more time. And they may do this and pay a day late to get you to take your guard down, to get you to do a direct booking off of the Airbnb platform. They're just trying to buy enough time to get to the point that they could claim that they're a tenant. The moment that they are 2 or 3 days behind on their payments and you think they're going to squat for real, you send them this message. You say, "Hi, I know that you're having a hard time with your finances. I have another reservation for this listing because somebody booked while you did not have funds. And I cannot avoid this. I'm going to get in trouble with Airbnb. So can I please move you to this other property over here? I'll help you move your belongings, and then you can just make a new reservation for that property when you have the money. But can you do me this favor so I don't get removed from Airbnb as a host? Thank you so much." Now they are going to think that they got you. They have you fooled. But what they don't know is the moment that they move, the very next day, you call the police and say, "Hey, this person is trying to squat in my property. I'm an Airbnb host. They stayed one night at this location and they're refusing to pay. And as an innkeeper, it's my right to remove them for trespassing. Please come and have this person forcibly removed if you have to." Because they've only stayed in that literal address for one day, you moved their property, they no longer have all those built up days from the other property. This could be simply a different apartment in the same building. I've done this before, and yes, it absolutely works. But again, you need 2 properties, maybe a friend with one, and you need to not let them know you know what their game is. The second way is aggressive. It's your last ditch effort before actually filing eviction. And yes, it's happened 3 times, but over 8 years and over 100 properties, this isn't as high risk as you think, but be prepared. It could happen. When the person does not move out, they do not pay, they make their case known that they're trying to squat, they get aggressive or adversarial with you, you will again call the cops and say, "Hi, this person is squatting in my home and I know I have to evict them, but my personal belongings are in there and they refuse to let me get my personal possessions out of that house. I would like a police escort to remove my effects. This person has made threats against me while at the property and I do not feel safe." The police will allow you to set a time to take a U-Haul to that property and remove stuff. You're going to remove the bed, the couch, the pillows, the blankets, the towels, anything that you think would make a person comfortable, TV and everything. The moment they have nowhere to sleep but on the floor, the moment that they have nothing to cook with, no entertainment, no creature comforts, is the moment that they no longer want to be there. And the reason why will suddenly make sense now. They booked your Airbnb because they don't have stuff. They don't have anything to move in. They were trying to take advantage of your stuff. And now that they don't have your stuff, buying new stuff would be insanely expensive. So instead of buying stuff and moving that stuff into your place just to get evicted, they will move out, try to book a new Airbnb property, and put someone else through the ringer. Now, I am not an attorney, so this is as far as I'm going to go without giving you legal advice. But I have another video you should watch next. This one is how you handle someone who's overstaying their very first day. Let's say they do not extend their reservation and they're not out by 11 a.m. This video will teach you how to handle that situation next. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. You're my very favorite people, and as always, I will see you on the other side.